Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. In this video, we're looking at Urza's Legacy. This is part 2, and we're going to be looking at Phyrexian Assault, which is a black and red pre-constructed deck, which is, I'm going to presume, all about the Phyrexians. So we have a deck list here. 24 creatures, which is a lot of creatures. 3 sorceries, 4 instants, 3 enchantments, and 26 land. So, yeah, we can guess what the strategy is here. Play a load of creatures. Really, actually, looking at, I'm just going to say now, really like big variety of creatures. That's actually something I've noticed in this series. So, I think looking at the, just to go off topic a little bit here, but looking at the Tempest block pre-constructed decks, not as good a variety of, kind of cards in there, in like, but hitting when we hit these Urza's block decks, actually getting like good variety of things, kind of a lot of 1 and 2s off, and that has its advantages and disadvantages. I think it's introducing players to a bigger range of cards, but at the same time it's reducing their abilities to kind of get full play sets out of the box. But that's just something I thought worth mentioning there. Anyway, let's look at a bunch of creatures. So I think these are the stars of the show here. The Phyrexian Carrier cycle. So these are really fun. So we have Phyrexian Plague Lord, who's the boss of them. 5 mana for a 4/4. Like with no drawback, it's actually pretty good for the time. So yeah, you can sacrifice him to give something -4/-4 until end turn, which kills obviously a lot of things. And you can just sacrifice a creature to get something -1/-1 till end of turn, and you're in a deck with a lot of creatures, so that works out pretty well. And then Denouncer, Defiler, and Debaser all do the sacrifice to give minuses of increasing strength. So Denouncer is -1, Debaser is -2, and Defiler is -3. Of the 3, I think Debaser is slightly better just because it has flying, so just gives it a little more extra utility. But yeah, these are all great. I don't know why there's only 1 of Denouncer. I would have liked to have seen maybe like 3 of that, and then 2 of the others, and then 1 of Plague Lord, just because that's kind of obviously what the theme is meant to be, like a load of Phyrexian-esque creatures. We have some more Phyrexian-esque creatures here. This is kind of just like a random grab bag, I think, of just black creatures. So Looming Shade is just a shade, just 1/1, and spend black mana to make it more powerful. Tethered Scourge is not very good. It is a 2/2 flyer, and whenever it gets targeted by a spell or ability, you lose a life, which is obviously not very good at all. Fog of Gnats is a 0/1 with 1 mana, 0/1 flyer with regeneration, and I've said it before, but 1 mana regeneration is really, really strong. Especially on a cheap creature like this, it just means it's like a really good chump blocker. Giant Cockroach is just a 4/2 for 4. It's like, okay, fine, just a vanilla creature just to do stuff with, whatever, like fine attacker, I guess. Anyway, not interesting. Phyrexian Broodlings is a lot more interesting. 3 mana 2/2, 1 sacrifice creature, get a +1/+1 counter on it. So that's a fine thing to have. I like that the boost can be permanent, because the Phyrexian Ghoul is also, it's not in this set, it was in the last set, and Phyrexian Ghoul is sacrifice a creature, get +2/+2 until end of turn. I think they both have their advantages and disadvantages. Phyrexian Broodlings works really well in this deck because you have 24 creatures, so there's plenty of things for it to eat. And then Bone Shredder is 3 mana for a 1/1 flyer. When it comes in, does terror, destroys a non-artifact, non-black creature. If you don't want to pay the echo cost, then Phyrexian Broodlings can just eat it, or Phyrexian Plague Lord can sacrifice it to kill another creature. Yeah, I think that's a pretty fun selection of black creatures there. And then we have a bunch of red creatures as well. So Avalanche Riders 2/2 with Echo and Haste. When it comes in, destroys a land. So Echo is not such a big problem on this creature just because it has haste, so you can cast it, destroy an enemy land, and then swing with this guy if you really want to, and then if you don't want to pay the Echo cost next turn, and 4 mana is like a fairly big investment. it's not really worth keeping a 2/2 around, then that's fine. At least you got a swing out of him. Defender of Chaos is 2/1 protection from white and flash. That's fine, I guess. Go-to Slinger, 2/2 for 3. When it comes in, does 2 damage to a creature or player and has Echo. So again, if you just need the damage, you can just play him, and he's kind of like a very expensive sorcery speed shock, and would then, I guess, serve as a 2/2 blocker for a turn. But if you wanted to keep him around, 3 mana is again a little expensive, I think, to keep him around. But if you need the extra body, that's fine. Or eat him with Phyrexian Broodlings, then you have to pay the Echo cost. Molten Hydra is a weird card, I think, to have in this deck. So comes in 2 mana for a 1/1. 1 colour's 2 red to put a +1/+1 counter on it. Tap to remove all his counters, and does 1 damage to a creature or player for every +1/+1 counter removed this way. So takes a really long time to build up. A lot of mana investing in it. I just don't think that's very good. You're having to put a lot of time and effort into making that worthwhile, and then you tap and you lose all that mana and time you invest it just to kill off kind of one creature. I mean, potentially you could like build up to do like a really big lethal burn to an opponent, but it's just a lot of time and effort. I don't think that's a very good rare to include in this deck, personally. Some more red creatures. So Goblin Medics. This is a weird card. 3 mana for a 1/1, which is obviously not very good at all. When it becomes tapped, it does 1 damage to target creature or player. So it's kind of like a Prodigal Sorcerer effect, because that was an effect that blue used to have, was the Prodigal Sorcerer ability, like the tap to do 1 damage. And I don't understand why when it's very clearly a red ability, but this is maybe a start of it moving over to red. So these guys kind of have to attack first to do it, but at least then they, I guess, get to double dip on it. They can attack and then also do 1 damage. So maybe okay. And then a bunch of Viashino. So Viashino Cutthroat, 5/3 for 4 with haste, which is a very good rate, but it goes back to your hand at end turn, so it has like the dash mechanic, sort of before, about 20 years before dash was a thing in Khans of Tarkir. Viashino Runner, 3/2 with Menace. That's okay, just pretty boring. Viashino Heretic is a lot more interesting. So 2 colours and a red for a 1/3, 1 colours and 1 red, tap, destroy an artifact, and he deals damage to the artifact's control equal to the artifact's mana value. That's very good, I think. This guy, I think, is crying out for a reprint somewhere, because I think that ability is really, really strong. And there's no like drawback to it at all, which I think is, it's definitely weird, because you'd expect, like, it's a repeated destruction effect with no drawback. And at instant speed, it's none of this like activate and is a sorcery. 2 mana, destroy an artifact. Like, he's got better than Shatter, and like Shatter is kind of a substandard card these days. But it just seems crazy to me that this that Viashino Heretic is as good as he is. I don't know. I remember opening this card in packs and looking and being like, I've got to be reading this wrong. This can't be as good as I think it is, and I think it actually is. And then we have some removal, as I would hope so if we're playing black-red. So 2 Expunge, which is just terror with cycling, fine. Corrupt, which is damage to a creature or player equal to the number of swamps you control, and you get that much life. Weird to include it in a black-red deck, because you're not necessarily going to get full effect from it, but it's fine, I guess. Heat Ray, instant speed, X damage to a creature, and Arc Lightning, 3 damage, divided as you choose amongst any number of creatures or players. Expensive, but it can potentially kill 3 things, which is fairly good. 1 Headlong Rush, which is an instant to give all attack creatures first strike till end turn. Fine. There's not really sort of much to say with it. It's going to be, you're playing quite an aggressive deck here. You've got a lot of creatures. You're mostly going to be winning by attacking, so Headlong Rush I think is fine. Engineered Plague is not a weird inclusion. So when it comes to play, you choose a creature type. Creatures of the chosen type get -1/-1. So not really a tribal set as block. Or it's not a tribal block really, but yeah, there are definitely they are leaning more into like more creatures showing up that have the same type. So there's kind of like more elves. There's more like things like more merfolk, more like clerics, I guess, like soldiers. So we're sort of like moving out of the era where there's like hundreds of like weird obscure creature types, and like it's starting to become more streamlined in terms of creature types. So this could have been useful here, I guess. Phyrexian Reclamation, 1 black mana for an enchantment, 1 cost 1 black, pay 2 life, get a creature card from your graveyard back to your hand. I think that's very good. Yeah, not much more to say about that. I think that's very good. Again, it can be done at instant speed, so just do it at the end of opponent's turn, and then cast it again on your turn if there's nothing else you need to do. I think that's just very strong enchantment. And then Treacherous Link, 1 cost 1 black for an aura, redirect to its controller all damage dealt to enchanted creature. So if they've got like a big creature they're using to block with, put that on it, and then they won't want to be blocking with it. Yeah, I think Treacherous Link is fine. I quite like this kind of the redirecting damage ability. You don't really sort of see that much anymore. And then just a bunch of non-basic land. So Smoldering Crate and Polluted Mire are non-basic with cycling. We're going to see these in pretty much every of the precons in this block. And then Spawning Pool and Guide to Encampment. So this is the black and red man lands. So this was the cycle in this set of creatures of lands that turned into creatures. So Spawning Pool is the black one, turns into a 1/1 black skeleton, which has regenerates 1 black mana, which makes it just a really good chump blocker. And Guide to Encampment becomes a 2/1 red creature with first strike. So again, like pretty decent attacker or blocker. So what could have been? So I think this deck is I think it's fairly solid. I don't think there's many dead cards in it. But there's a few changes I would make. Mostly the Molten Hydra. I don't think that really fits at all. I think that definitely could have been replaced with either Eviscerator. So Eviscerator is like not great by today's standards, like a 5 mana 5/5, but when it comes into play you lose 5 life, but it has protection from white. So and like it's more like Phyrexian themed. And at the end of the day, these are called theme decks, so it would be more on theme than a random Hydra. Or the other option is like No Mercy, 2 colors and 2 black. Whenever a creature successfully deals damage to you, destroy it. That's such a massive deterrent. And again, I think would have fit in quite well with the theme of cruel, tyrannical Phyrexia. But there's a bunch of other spells as well. Unearth just to get some of your creatures back. Swat is another removal spell with cycling. Sick and Tired gives 2 creatures -1/-1. So again, just kind of put more removal. Ostracize is a targeted discard spell that hits creature cards. And Last Ditch Effort, 1 red. And additional cost, you sacrifice X creatures and does X damage to a creature player. So like if you want like a really desperate spell to kind of do lethal to an opponent, Last Ditch Effort I think is a pretty decent way of doing that. So in summary, I think this one is like pretty solid. Again, this is a deck I would have been quite happy having. Having a bunch of like Phyrexians are just cool. So having a deck kind of full of them would have really tickled me, I think. I think it would have been pretty solid, just killing a bunch of creatures and attacking with hordes of Phyrexians. Yeah, I think that would have been pretty fun. But what do you think? Did you have this deck? Did you play with it? What changes did you make to it? I'd really like to know. So stick a comment below. But I'll be back next time to look at another Urza's legacy pre-constructed deck. But until then, thank you for watching and listening, and have a good day.